And in this tutorial I'm going to talk about Android Studio testing tips. Okay, without wasting any time, let's go right onto the topic. And in this topic I will be giving you some testing tips that you can easily use with your Android Studio. Okay, what is the first tip? The first tip is obviously I have a class that I want to test this function of this class, and how I can create a test for this class is Command Shift T if you are using a MacBook, and obviously Control Shift T if you are using a Windows. And you see, actually you will get a options or suggestions here that you can create a new test, or you have already, actually I have already created a test for this class, so it's suggesting me to select this test, or you can create a new test. If you click, you can just pretty much write your my test class, my second class test. Okay, and just you can select the method and click OK, which will auto generate your test file. Okay, and your test file will be pretty much be looking like this one, and like, you know, this is all the tests that I have written here. Okay, so this is our first tip. So what is my second tip? My second tip is obviously how to run this test, right? There are three or like multiple way of to run a test. First way, if you want to run the test for entire class, right? Your test class can have multiple methods. For example, right now I have only one method, so I am writing a individual only one test for one method, right? But I can have a multiple methods here, so you can write test for each of your method. But if you want to run the test for your entire class, you just click here and run your test, just like this, you know, and it's gonna run your test for your entire class, right? Otherwise, if you want to just run the test for your individual class, just click in this green button. Obviously the test is passing, that's why it's green. If it fails, it will be a red button, right? And you just click here, and then you can just run your test, and just press the green button and you run your individual test. So here, right, you just run your test for this method, right? And there is also another option for running your test, that is by going to your package, your project. Okay, sorry guys. And then if you go to your application, you go to your source, then you go to your test folder. This is a unit test folder. Then you just click your unit test folder, and you can run your entire test for your Kotlin application. You can just run this, and it will pretty much run your test for your entire application. So that means all the every test will be executed. So 1 2 3 4 5 classes, you know, 6 actually, you know, also this one will be executed. So if you want to execute a test for all your application, you just go to your package and run from there. If you want to do it individually, just go to your individual class and run it from the run button here, right? Run test button. Or you can use your command options like shift control shift and R, right? If you are using a MacBook. Okay, so this is about our writing our test, right? And what is our next tip? Our next tip is obviously if you want to debug your test, as you can see, you can also debug your test. Like for example, click your, you can just add your breakpoints, right? You can add your multiple breakpoints here, right? And you can debug your test if your test is failing. Just click here and debug your test, right? So it will run, and when it arrives in this breakpoint, it will just stop there. So you can just pretty much understand each and every values, right? So you resume it again, so you will get stuck in, I mean, like you will get this breakpoint where your value is n is 0, right? Then you just run it again, and then, you know, it will execute to this breakpoint, and where your value n is 0, yeah, you know. So it's similarly, and the value, if n is 1, you see, you can just, n is value is 2 3, you know, multiple values, you know, 6 4, you know, all these values, input values are being like called. So you can just debug your test to understand your test much better. Okay, so this is our another tip. And What next? Now the another tip will be for you guys to understand our test coverage. Okay, so we want to understand, it's very important to understand your how much your test has covered. Okay, so you can understand your test coverage, that your test is pretty much covering your entire class or not. You can just do it by just going to your similarly to the same folder, test folder, then just run your test with coverage with this button, right? Just run your test with the coverage, and it's gonna run your test for your entire test with all the coverage, right? So you see now it's instantiating the test, and it will run the test with a coverage. So coverage, it pretty much identifies which lines of codes are covered by the test and which ones are skipped. The lines, okay, let me finish. Let's wait to finish this test, and we will understand much better. It's taking a little bit of time to finish this test. Let me see, we have two processes running. Let's hide one of them. 1 past 5. Okay, so you see the test, which is there are actually green lines, which means that the test, these lines are the code are covered by these lines, the codes are covered, whereas this red lines means the this code is pretty much skipped while testing, right? So this is how we understand that which lines is skipped while testing and which line is being covered. So our objective now will be try to write a test for this skipped lines, so that we will try to also see this green, so that that means that also this line is covered by our testing. So the higher the cover is, the higher the chance of finding crashes and bugs. Okay, so or higher the chances that your code is really clean. So if your code is much has a high coverage, means your code is much better, right? Okay, so and now the final thing that I want to explain you is, like, there are some situations. Now this is all about your test buttons, right? But what if in the situations that, like, if you have your application, your project has a continuous integration setup, meaning that every time you upload your code to a repository in the cloud, a set of scripts will be triggered to test it. And how do you do that? Is by writing a command line, by testing using a command line, like your command line by executing a command line code, right? So how do you execute this? How can we execute a test by a command line? It's pretty simple. If you are using a MacBook, just gradle w test. It's pretty simple. Like, you can also remember it, gradle w test. You know, it will now execute your entire test, and it's pretty simple, guys. And yeah, if you are using a continuous integration, you can just run this command line, execute this command line command, and then it's gonna run your entire test, right? And finally, you also have your reports getting generated in your app build dot output. Not output, sorry, it's a reports, and your report for your each test package. This is our this we can just view this in our browser. You can just view here. Okay, so you can test, you see your reports, and also pretty much easily after you run your test from your command line, right? It's pretty cool. And finally, you can also actually execute the tests from here, right? There are test build unit test. You can check out your coverage from here, as you can see here, com and your Kotlin app, you know, where I was testing here with this classes, right? It's 100% covered. You see 3 of 3 method, so 5 of 5 test, 3 of 3 test, my class, everything, it's all covered. So you can just pretty much check your coverage from this tool, right? So yeah, Android Studio gives you a lot of cool tools to write unit test and understand it more, right? And write a very clean code, right? Bug free code. So I hope you like this tutorial, and if you like it, please do subscribe, share, comment if you have any questions, and please do like please watch my videos, and just yeah, share it if you pretty much like it, and click the bell icon button so that you'll get notified if I come up with any new tutorials. Okay, thank you very much guys, and catch you up in the next lecture.